Hey everyone, Mary Jo here. Hey, I have a couple of pivot points, invitations for us to consider changes or invitations to consider things that are happening in and around us that we might want to take a look at over the next couple of weeks as we head into sort of the bulk of September. So I'm going to cover just one of these today, and we'll look at the other two themes that I received over the next couple of days to a week. So with that, I'm going to sort of kick off, talk a little bit about what's in the box or all of the sort of tools and cards that we're using for this reading, and then we'll get started with the actual reading. So I like to sometimes have cards or something else that help to hold the container for a message or a reading. And by that, I mean, is there something that should help to influence or guide how we take a look at things? What is the lens we're going to look at the information through? And so for this, we've got two cards. One is from the Territorial deck. It's a tarot card deck. And the lower one is from the Sacred Destiny deck by Denise Linn. For the three themes, we've got sort of three stacked components to that. At the bottom of that are cards that are from the Sacred Geometry deck, and this is the Visionary Path deck by Francine Hart. The cards that are here on top, these are from the Healers of the Oracle, Healers of the Earth Oracle deck. And they have both information on the cover side and on the reading side. And I'll kind of show you some of that as we go through it. This deck is by Mandy Peterson. And then the runes that are here, I use the runes from Rock Cloud. So with that, let me go ahead and kick us off into the actual reading part. Okay, so at the top and the bottom, we've got the card reversed from the Wheel of Fortune and the upright card from Blessing. So I've put them here together just so we can kind of see them in one place. So the Wheel of Fortune card is oftentimes about change or luck or good luck. And so oftentimes it can be, hey, that seems like an exciting thing until it's flipped, right? And then we start to think about the things that might cause us challenges. It might be our bad luck or misfortune. This whole card, it's about the wheel of life. It's about the cycle of life. And it is about the fact that life happens whether we would like to keep it stuck in one place or not. So we go through seasons, we go through cycles, we go through changes, our day in or day out. And some of those are things that really excite us, we're really happy about. And some we don't like so much. We can't control the cycle of life. The life flows and ebbs around us, and we can't control usually the timing of many of these things. They are out of our control. And that's probably part of what is so frustrating to us, is we would like to have some things happen at times that are convenient, or we like when they're happening, but this is just not going to happen for us in this space. We can, however, if we can't speed it up, if we can't decide that's going to happen at this time, we can, however, sometimes get ourselves really stuck in the morass of this, whatever is happening to us. So when we hold on tight, we just like grip it in, we're going to hold it tight. We don't want to change, dig in our heels, the whole works. We get really stuck. We can get really frustrated, and it doesn't help. I mean, we're going to sit in that until it's going to move through the cycle. If you're like me, you've probably done that more than once, where something has happened and you're just much more frustrated about your own processing of it than the actual event. And sometimes the events can be really hard or challenging. But the stuff that we go through inside of us because of our resistance to it is just even more painful than the thing to begin with. If we can learn to ride the waves, if we can learn to let go a little bit, knowing that cycles are going to shift and change, we can usually ride that process either a little bit more quickly or at least with a little bit more ease in the system. So that's what that one is all about. What about the other one? This lovely bird sitting in this beautiful space, blessings. And this card invites us to remember that we have messages, guides, helpers, spiritual guardians all around us. And they are always providing us support, sending us context and information for what's going on around us, and providing us with serendipity and synchronicity to realize that all of this is here. We are not alone in the universe. We're not alone in this world. And we have the things that we need to help us to move through this. And so we're invited to watch for signs. What's happening around us? Where can you see where there might be something that is trying to provide you information or a message in some way? We're invited to open our intuition, and not just those folks who think, oh, I'm intuitive. We're all being invited to open our intuition in really substantial and significant ways. We're invited to open our spiritual connections, whatever your spiritual path and process is, whatever it is that you feel connected with, we're invited to open those. And we're also being invited to take some time for reflection, for pausing and allowing ourselves to have some time to think about what is coming in or what's around us, and to also allow that to integrate into ourselves. Those are just sort of there in the background as we talk about the themes. These apply to all of us, and they apply most of the time, but we're really going to look at any messages that we receive in the themes through the lenses of these cards. Okay, so upper and lower lenses. I'm going to move to just theme 1 today. And you'll notice before I even get started that the deck on top has information on the front side of the card, typically the card that just is the same image no matter what card you're looking at. So the one that we're going to look at today has sort of an overarching theme of unknown. Theme 2 has an overarching theme of industry and technology, and card number 3 around purification and release. So moving into this space, let's take a look at what is here. So we have this card from Sacred Geometry, this card from Healers of the Earth, and this is the rune. So I'm going to start here, and then we'll move through it. So this from Sacred Geometry, this structure is the octahedron, and it's obviously reversed. And I think it's hard to see because of this shadow here, but what this is it's 2 pyramids top to bottom. So you've got a pyramid going up and a pyramid going down. And then this line right here, they share a common either floor or connection point. So one going up, connecting us up into air, up into spiritual, one coming down, connecting us into the earth, into our foundations. One of the things that's really key about this geometry is that these can be very different perspectives. So up or down, it can be different perspectives on anything, it can have a lot of polarity in with it because you're heading in different directions. And if there's tension at this interface, what we get is a lot of that angry polarity. Talking to anybody who's experienced any of this recently in our lives, I mean, it's all around us. It's really all around us right now. There's so much tension that's coming up and so much polarity that's here. This geometry talks about, can we bring these perspectives together? Can we bring together these different viewpoints? And it really invites us, since it's reversed, it invites us to consider that there is some degree of intolerance that is in the system, that there's some degree of intolerance that needs to be addressed. And for me, it feels like there's also some degree of intolerance, but even a judgment here between that which is happening. This polarity is nothing new. We've been living in it for a period of time, more than a couple of years, but we are at a place where some of these are hitting real breaking points. We are not able to continue so well to have these explosions that are just going in really radically different areas and not be able to find what are some degree of common ground, common space that we can come together to reach some movement forward, some action forward. Now, the second part here is this card from the Healers of the Earth deck, and it's the intangible. This card is all about what we can't know. It's about mystery. It's about the unknown. It's about the wisdom and spiritual perspective that can be open to us when we decide to let go of trying to put everything in a little box with a checkoff list that we can understand and just move right on through it. That's just me all over it. I feel this card says you can't know. You can really try to wrap your head around it. You can try to control it. You can try to make yourself be able to get to a point of having a definition for what's going on. But at the end, all you're going to do is have to put out your hands and say, I have to release that control, because what I'm going to focus on is either these checklists and these little boxes that I can put things in, or I'm going to open up and allow myself to connect in with the mystery of what's around me. The mystery of the messages, the mystery of the universe, just the mystery. This is really speaking to our soul. It is not at all speaking to our mind, okay? So it's about, can we come back into our soul space? Can we come into our heart and soul and connect to what is bigger than us and wider than us in this world? When we have a reversed card, it usually indicates that we've got some sort of fear or control in the system, and just invites us even more to go ahead and try to let go of that fear or control, and to invite ourselves to come into our heart space and see what we can work through, if we can move out of that fear and into our heart. one of the things we know about fear is that this tension, this polarity, is both exacerbated by fear and it exacerbates fear. So the more fears in the system, the more we feel and just are afraid of this polarity of the differences, and we begin to other and shift and be angry. But the more that we're upset about everything, the more we have tension here, the more we become fearful. It becomes a forward feed cycle. So part of the invitation is, can we break that cycle? Can we just stop it and allow something different to begin to come out? And then in the middle of this drops this rune. This rune is Esau, which means ice. So if you think about water flowing, it becomes ice, it stops moving. It's frozen. This can speak to obstacles that we have. It can speak to a time of where things are just at a standstill, they're stalled. But it can also speak to, similar to the winter season, when we begin to kind of pull back a little bit and deepen inside of ourselves, do preparations that would come out in the spring. That can also be part of what is contained in this rune. It's a time for us to think carefully about what it is that we're going to do. And it's not a time to just try to go on out there and make something happen for the sake of making something happen. Just charge ahead. We're just going to do it. It's just going to happen. I'm just going to make it go. Okay, it's not that, because it's not going to work, because everything is beginning to freeze up. And the old thing isn't just going to work anymore. So taking a breath back, a step back, and looking to see what we can do within this. So when we take all of these together, really what jumps out a lot is the intolerance and the judgment that we're here in this polarized time that we're facing right now. And one of the very common tenets of what we think of as the fifth dimensional world, is this ascension shift, is the tenet that each person needs to find their own truth. You'll hear that spoken of. Speak your truth in love. What is your truth? Speak that in love. Well, we have 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion human souls. That doesn't even take into account all the other soul spirits, beings, entities that we are encountering and interacting with. Let's just talk about the 8 billion human souls. All of them with some different version of their own truth. Therefore, it is unlikely that somebody's truth is going to be exactly your truth, and vice versa. Some of these truths are similar, and some are very polar, just like this octahedron. They're very different perspectives, very different views. Some of the truths are causing harm to others, and some truths are rooted in fear. Some truths are rooted in change. Some truths are rooted in any emotion and feeling that we can identify. And we have my cat in the background. And yet, if we take and we try to hammer on these truths, this is my truth, your truth needs to look like my truth, your truth doesn't look like my truth, I'm right, you're wrong. We start throwing around judgment and our intolerance of different perspectives. We sink pretty low into shame. And we sink pretty low into othering and distancing and not finding where there might be a space that we can move together in. This duality, this area between the two pyramids, this common ground or this common space, it invites us to look to see where we can find the space for commonality. Not false tolerance, okay? Not that that story of peace when there is no peace. It's not putting our head in the sand and pretending like things that are hurtful or harmful to the world, to people, to beings, they're not happening. But it is an opportunity to find where is the commonality, where are the things that we can begin to come together around. Where's the deeper work in this process? And in light of this overarching container that we're looking at, back to these two, we're also understanding that within this context, we can't change the cycle of life. We as people and we as a world are undergoing a pretty marked transformation. That's an understatement. Marked transformation. We're in the middle of it. And it's not quite peaked yet. We have a little bit more in the next couple of years of pretty substantial pivot points and change. But we do have the encouragement that the wheels are moving, the cycle is changing. And things that have been here that are not helpful for us moving and shifting are moving through the system. They are leaving and being released. So how is it that we can enter into this space of hearing from those who are here to support us, tapping into our own inner dimensions, our own inner landscape, and learning from the wisdom that's connected to our own heart and soul? How do we do this within this context of understanding that there's nothing certain? We're being asked to step into the mystery. Our future hasn't actually been created yet. We're helping to create that. But we're not going to get there if we keep hammering at each other. And we are being invited to open up and think about how we can navigate these waves of change with a little bit more ease, a little bit more openness, a little bit more looking for that common ground. Hard stuff, I know, particularly when some of the things that are facing us may be things that you feel really strongly for or against. They bring up a lot of emotions, and we need all of our emotions, and that's part of what we're here for, is really evolving in all of these emotions. And yet, when we think about the waves of change and how we need to connect to our world, how we need to connect to others around us, what we're going to find is, rather than asking others to change as much as we think we would like, we're going to be asking ourselves to change. Change starts in here. Interconnection starts in here. Oneness starts in here. And then it flows out and flows out, fills out to others. And so that's our first theme. It's really around intolerance and judgment, but it is an invitation and an opportunity for us to become more tolerant, more finding of the common ground, allowing judgment to drop away. That does not mean that if there's something you think you need to work on in the community, in a collective, in your family, in your relationships, in your workplace, you're still called to do that. But what we're letting go of is that judgment and shame and blame that is so easy to put out there, and shifting more to our own internal work. We also become part of this glue, this stickiness in the middle, where this octahedron comes together. How do we become part of that instead of things that would push us apart and away? And so with that, I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of days. I wish you peace and joy upon your journey. Thanks for joining me.